making another video today. Like I said, today is a snow day, so I figured I would have a productive day today, just covering different topics. Today is Sunday, January 19th, and one of the topics I wanted to touch on from a previous video where I talked about Persephone and Hades. So in the Mythos book, narrated and written by Stephen Fry, one of the stories that he spoke on was Persephone. So Persephone was the daughter of Zeus and the daughter of Demeter. So Zeus, we already know he's the king of all of the gods, right? Like Demeter, she is the goddess of agriculture. So she like controls, like luck with farming and like the weather and different things like that. So they have a daughter, her name is Persephone. And this story is so crazy. So in Greek mythology, there's a lot of incest. There's a lot of like forcefully making people do things that they might not want to do. I'll say that. So Persephone was a beautiful, like soft, feminine girl at the time. And I think she was out like picking flowers or something like that, or out in the middle doing something like that. And she ends up getting swept up in a chariot that like comes from the underworld, and Hades is on this chariot. He abducts her, takes her, brings her to the underworld, and keeps her captive. And he wants her to marry him and be his queen of the underworld. So it's weird because we all know that Hades and Zeus are brothers. So that would make Persephone. Okay. All right. So just to give you that context, I wanted to just explain that part. So, anyway, back to the story. Persephone was abducted by Hades and taken to the underworld. So she was taken to the underworld or whatever. And Demeter was so upset. She was looking for her daughter. She ended up going up to Mount Olympus and talking with Zeus, like, hey, our daughter is missing. Like, what's up? Like, what are we gonna do? Like that type of thing, right? So he was trying to like play dumb. According to the story, he was trying to play dumb, like he didn't know what was going on. But the whole time he had like a secret deal with Hades that he would give his daughter to her so that she could be his bride. But Demeter knew nothing about this. So Zeus tried to like play dumb or whatever and wasn't being very helpful. So Demeter, she lost it like any mom would, right? So she started like, there was a whole thing with like weather that she manipulated. I think it was something like there was like snow and there wouldn't be any crops growing to feed people. There was like a great famine, and she was just basically saying like all hell is going to break loose because I don't have my daughter, right? So if I gotta suffer, everybody else has to suffer. So this was going on for a while, and Zeus had to like step in, like so he steps in now and was like, all right, I'll send I'll send someone down there to go get her. But if she ate anything, she can't come back, because once you eat something in the underworld, you can't come back, or something like that. It's some type of rule. So the person ends up going down. I think it was Hermes. The person ends up going down to go get Persephone, right? And when he gets there, like that whole time, like that all of this stuff was going on, like Persephone was like, I'm not gonna eat nothing. I'll rather starve. Like she was just like not with that, like, you know? And you know, it was just a whole thing. Which rightfully so on Persephone's part, because what the heck. So anyway, they end up going down to get her, and Hades like tricked her or whatever. He ended up giving her pomegranate. So he gave her 6 pomegranate seeds. So he gave her the 6 pomegranate seeds, and so that was the trick now. So since she ate the 6 pomegranate seeds in the underworld, she had to stay in the underworld for 6 months out of the year, and in 6 months out of the year, she could be with her mom, Demeter. So the Greeks have it that is the reason why we have fall and winter, and you aren't really able to harvest crops as well in these months, because those are the 6 months her daughter is away. So that's their story on why these things happen. So Persephone and Hades, that's how that came to be, and that's how she became the queen of the underworld. Another person that I wanted to talk about, Medusa. Oh my gosh. So there's this preconceived notion that Medusa is a terrible person, like she's a monster and she's just a villain, right? She has a very sad story. So she was originally a priestess, or let me look up the correct terminology for her. Okay, so she was like a high priestess or something like that. So something like that has to do with religion, but she was a highly respected woman. And she was like a part of Athena's temple and things like that. So Athena, one of the things with Athena is remaining pure and untouched, right? So the story goes that Medusa used to be a very beautiful woman, right? And she was like, I guess, walking to the temple or something like that. And and she was she was assaulted by Poseidon, right? So Poseidon forces himself on her in Athena's temple. And after the fact, Athena finds her in the temple, and she cursed her. So she cursed her. Her hair turned to snakes. She cursed her with the like long, like talon type of nails that we see. and the scaly skin and the reptile-like eyes. So she cursed her with all of these things after all of that happened. And if you are familiar with Perseus, right? Perseus is the person that ends up killing her. So she was a devoted priestess to Athena and respectful of her temple. And she ended up, getting the messed up end of the stick in this situation for something that she had no control over. And then to make matters worse, right? Perseus was a demigod. He had relation to Athena and Hermes because Zeus was his father. So Athena and Hermes ended up helping him when it came to fighting Medusa. Hermes gave him the winged sandals that he wears, right? If you kind of like have an idea of what Hermes wears, he wears like winged sandals so he can kind of like fly or float or whatever. And Athena gave him a shield that had like a mirror-like appearance where he would be able to see reflection of things, and gave him a sword that was very sharp that could pierce her neck when he goes to cut her head off. So all of this being said, I'm going to talk about Perseus in another video, but this just goes to show like all of that ended up happening to her, and then she ended up getting beheaded by him, and her head was like being held around like a trophy until he ended his quest. And then according to the book, he threw her head at the bottom of the ocean or something like that. The other person I wanted to talk about was Aphrodite. So I think Aphrodite is like one of my favorite gods, because she's just like a lover girl. She's the most beautiful god. She's very, like just love. Like, so if you want something that has to do with anything with love, you would pray to her. Beauty, you would pray to her. Things like that. So I like that type of stuff, like feminine, beautiful, light, airy, that type of vibe. But I wanted to talk about how she came to be, because that story was so interesting. And I wanted to share that with you guys. So there's a lot of there's a lot of mutilation that goes on in Greek history and like mythology. And so Kronos was the god of time, right? Uranus was the god of the sky. So Uranus was Kronos's father, and Kronos ended up castrating Uranus and throwing what was left into the ocean. According to them, there was a white foam in the sea after his castration, and Aphrodite comes out. So she ends up coming out, right? And she ended up coming out of there, and she was born as an adult, fully mature and fully desirable. She was married to Hephaestus. So Hephaestus was a kind of less attractive god that was really good at creating things. He was like really good at things like that. Um, but that ended up being her husband. But she did have like romantic relations with other gods. For example, you probably hear about her and Ares a lot. Ares, the god of war. So she was I think she's like my favorite. She's like my favorite. So I think I'm going to go ahead and give you guys some fun facts about her. I'm looking it up now. So fun facts about Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty. Um, Aphrodite wore a magical belt called the cestus. Could make anyone fall in love with the wearer. Um, she was like a jealous, she was a jealous goddess, because I know with Helen of Troy, which is supposed to be historically the most beautiful woman in all of history, right? She was so jealous of that. Like, she ended up having her hands in the Trojan War because of it. Another fun thing, she had like there was a person in Greek mythology, I can't remember his name, but there was a person in Greek mythology that she ended up helping him get a happy ending. He was like a sculptor, and he fell in love with a sculpture that he made, and she like breathed life into the sculpture so that these two could be together. It was like beautiful and weird at the same time. But yeah, so that's another fact. Her Roman name is Venus. I think I do want to like learn a little bit about Roman mythology. Her weaknesses include being vain, jealous, and vindictive. She disliked anyone she considered more beautiful than herself. Um, she rode a flying chariot. She didn't take rejection well. I think I'm going to give you guys some fun facts about Persephone. Persephone, her fun facts are she's the queen of the underworld. Persephone is often depicted holding sheaves of grain, symbolizing her connection to agriculture and fertility. She has a complex relationship with Hades. While initially depicted as being abducted against her will, some interpretations suggest that Persephone eventually comes to accept her role as queen of the underworld and even develops a relationship with Hades. So I think that's probably like Stockholm Syndrome. Let's talk about Medusa. So 10 fun facts about Medusa. Medusa was a Gorgon. So you know how they say like Gorgon sisters, things like that. Her sisters were Steno and Euryale. Before becoming a monster, she is a beautiful priestess of Athena. Like I was telling you guys before. Athena cursed Medusa for breaking her vow of celibacy. Perseus cut her head off. I told you guys about that. She had wings. she had terrifying powers. And then, of course, you guys know, like, she could turn people to stone with her gaze. I think that's pretty, like, common knowledge. But I just wanted to touch on these three ladies today, just to kind of give, like, a little story time, I guess, because it's, like, snowing today. I'm in a nice cozy sweater, and I figured I would do like a little story time type of deal right now with this and get, you know, these two videos out today. But I think that I am going to touch on some more Greek mythology stories. I know I definitely want to talk about the heroes of Greek mythology that are demigods. So I touched on gods today and like gorgons. But I do want to touch on like actual like demigods and like heroes and, you know, things like that. And I could give you guys some good recommendations as far as movies that are somewhat accurate to what really happened. So I think in the next video I'm going to cover Hercules and Perseus. Another thing I wanted to tell you guys, so Greek stories and like mythology and stuff usually ends in tragedy. So usually like when there's, you know, love or whatever, like usually it ends in tragedy. There's every once in a while, every so often, there will be like happy endings and things like that. So I know I do want to touch on like the happy ending stories as well. But this book has so many stories in it, so I am going to like touch on it, you know, periodically while I talk about different, while I get these videos out, I want to talk about different stories. So, I think that would be good. And then we do some sort of vlog. I'm going to see, because like recording out in public is kind of not my thing. But I'm stepping outside of my comfort zone this year. And then I know like in March, I do want to do, another themed video. But yeah, that's all I have for today. Just these two videos. Let me know if you want to have a more in-depth video discussing Game of Thrones, because I touched on that in my previous video, and I don't know if that's something like people want to hear about, or like if y'all interested, like, oh yeah, like this a topic or whatever. But because I know this show ended so many years ago, and I just recently got put onto it like what, like a year or two ago. Yeah, like a year ago. So I know I'm kind of late to the party, but if that's something y'all want to talk about, definitely let me know and I'll post about it. So I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye.